Welcome back to the Sean Trey Show. I am again doing some solo talks here, and this is part of my book series about how to not be an asshole. Now, it's always an interesting thing to talk about assholes because they literally are kind of everywhere that we go out and interact with. Now, how do we not be an asshole? Well, one of the big things to look at is the concept of mirror, mirror. Now, what am I talking about here? Well, one of the most important things is to look at self awareness. Now, self awareness is really key to growth. And it's really important to be aware of and have some self awareness because it's essential for growth and avoiding assholery. It's not just about criticizing yourself, it's about taking an honest look at who you are and kind of what you stand for. Being self-aware means you can recognize how your actions impact others and make better decisions. We've all interact with that person who has zero self-awareness. The person who pulls in front of you in traffic, the person who is just standing this close to you, less than, a foot away from you, 30 centimeters for those of you in the metric world. And they're smoking a cigarette, blowing it in your face. Some people are not aware that they're doing this stuff. Some people are not aware that their behavior might rub you or other people the wrong way. Now, the good thing is that we can not necessarily change them, but we can look at ourselves and say, hey, how can I be more self-aware so I'm not that asshole? Because, not going to lie, there have been times that I have been that asshole. And the goal is to be less of an asshole. Now, the role of self-awareness in success. Now self-awareness helps you identify what you're good at and where you need to improve. For me, I know that I'm pretty good in most areas with self-control, except for when I'm driving. And I can tell you directly, I'm kind of an asshole when I drive, mainly to people who are being assholes themselves. I have this big thing with people who text while they drive. And where I live, it's way too many people that text while they drive. And also, I have an issue with people running red lights. And you might go, wow, I would have an issue with that too. But when you live in a place where no one's doing anything about those people doing those behaviors, you get angry. Now, there's different ways to handle something once you feel that anger. I can say to someone in a nice, polite, respectful, hey, buddy, you better be careful or the police are going to give you a hard time and you're going to get fined. Or I can sit there and start screaming at them, hey, you asshole, get off your phone. Now, I can tell you which one of those two approaches makes me feel better. But I can also tell you it's a different approach that actually has the results that I want it to have. Now, without self-awareness, you can't grow or align your actions with meaningful goals. Meaning, if I actually want to make the road a safer place, screaming at someone like an asshole is not going to help that. It might piss them off, and then suddenly we get into a shouting match, which devolves into anger and distracts other people on the road. That's not going to help anyone. Now, if you can think of self-awareness as the first step to building trust and respect and authenticity in your life, it's a great approach. Because if I can sit there and go, you know what? I'm actually a pretty nice guy. I actually believe that. I think that I'm a pretty nice guy. But if I can also say, and these are my triggers, I can be better aware of when I might pop on someone else that I don't necessarily want to pop on. And I might be better aware of when I need to be more careful in my communication. Now, we've all been around that person who has low self-awareness. Now, what are some signs of a person with low self-awareness? Well, a person who interrupts others without realizing it, the person who's always butting in or cutting into a conversation, trying to speak over you, the person who always blames other people when anything goes wrong, or the person who is constantly being defensive when receiving any type of feedback. And we're not talking normal feedback. We're talking any type of feedback. You say the simplest of things and this person loses their cool on you. Now, I know that I have been around people that are like this. I have, for a lot of my career as a side hustle, taught English. And you know what? It is something that I thoroughly enjoy. I love teaching young minds. and it is exciting and rewarding. But I'll tell you this, I've had some young students who, even though they were young, were assholes. I had one student, let's call him Tom. Tom has a habit of interrupting constantly. No matter what's being said, he wants to interrupt and say his 10 cents. Okay? Tom also, anytime something negative happens in the class, begins to blame other people. Tom didn't get his project finished. Tom blames his partners. Tom didn't do his homework. Tom blames his mom. Tom doesn't know the answer. Tom blames me for not teaching it correctly. Okay? Now, another thing that Tom always does is when Tom is confronted about anything, Tom becomes defensive. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. And I can tell you this, Tom is young, but Tom is on the path to be a major asshole when he gets older. Now, what can we do? Well, I can work with helping Tom try to find a little bit more self-awareness. And that begins with having some self-awareness about how Tom makes me feel and the way I react to Tom. Because Tom doesn't respond to me yelling at him. Tom responds to calm, clear, cool communication. And that's hard for me because I want to call Tom an asshole to his face. That doesn't always work well. Well, how can I develop my self-awareness to be less of an asshole myself to interact with these other assholes? Well, first of all, step one is looking in the mirror. You have to ask yourself some honest questions about your strengths, weaknesses, and patterns. I get angry at people who don't follow the rules. I don't know why, but I do it. And I think because I feel like they're not respecting other people's personal space and other people's boundaries. And it makes me angry. Now, if I can look in the mirror and know that, it's a great starting point. One of the things that's really important, something I had to do recently, is seek feedback. Feedback is a mirror you can't avoid. It's essential for your blind spots. I try to ask the people I'm around the most, my mom, my brother, my wife, what they notice about my temper and how I can work at being better with that. Sometimes the feedback cuts. Sometimes the feedback is not what I want to hear and the feedback hurts. But the feedback is important for my growth. Now, what is my next step that I can do? Well, one of the most important things is to own those weaknesses. I know that one of my big flaws is that I have a major temper. Now, once I can embrace that and recognize that, I can begin to create a plan to move forward. Now, I remember one time when I was a young and upcoming actor and a past life, and I was living in Hollywood, and I was in this one movie, and I thought it was the greatest movie ever. We finished it, and I said, this movie is winning an Oscar. And then I went with all of my friends, and we watched the movie, and my friend turned to me at the end of the movie, and he's like, that was rough. And I was like, what do you mean? It was the greatest movie ever. He's like, no, that was a pretty horrible movie. It hurt. Years later, I look back at that movie and go, that movie was awful. It was horrible. And not so proud of it. But at the same time, I got to take part in it and I got to learn and grow. And that's important. Now, why self-awareness is a superpower? Self-awareness helps strengthen relationships by improving communication and empathy. Again, that's our magic word that we talk a lot about in this book, empathy. It's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to see the world from their perspective. Maybe Tom, my student, at home doesn't have anyone pay attention to him. Maybe I am the only person that he really gets to talk to. Maybe at school he's ignored, maybe he's bullied, maybe no one pays attention to him. Now, if I can start to look at the world through empathy and see things from Tom's perspective, then maybe I can start to understand a little bit about why he is the way he is. Now, again, self-awareness is a superpower because it's a tool for navigating challenges without becoming defensive or reactive. That's tough. My reactions in traffic are not necessarily helpful. They add more to the negativity of the situation than they do try to fix it. Now, there have been many times that I've used self-awareness in my own life to help diffuse a situation. One of the biggest places is with my partner. Now, V and I both have our tempers, and I love her to pieces, but both of us, if we don't or aren't careful, it can escalate into an argument. And I have to sit there and think, all right, what is V going through right now? Where am I at right now? Am I tired? Did I wake up too early or not get enough sleep last night? If I'm dealing with sleep deprivation or I have not eaten, then I'm not going to be the easiest person to talk to. If I had a long day at work, if V is getting ready for a show, there are certain situations that both of us have to look at to find a little bit more self awareness, to be a little bit more ready for the communications we need to have. But self awareness is key. Now, what can we do to strengthen our self awareness? Well, here's some fun exercises that might help you out. One of the big things I like to do is to take some time for reflection, taking 5 minutes each night to think about what went well with my day and what didn't. To sit there and think about what were my wins today? What were the things that I can sit there tonight and say, you know what? I did this well. And what were the things and places and times that I didn't win? When did I let my temper get the best of me? When did I swear more than I should have? Now, if I can reflect on that, I can start tracking what went right and what went wrong. Now, also, finding feedback once a week. We'll call that Feedback Friday. Now, once a week, ask a trusted person, what's one thing I can improve? And seeing what they say. Being ready to not be defensive. Being ready to be open to the feedback they can share with you. And then working on it, fixing it, seeing how you can create a plan to really make a difference that week. Another thing you can do is to look at your impact. Give yourself an impact check. After conversations, you can maybe ask yourself, how did I come across in that conversation or that interaction? Was I effective? Was my communication received? If I'm in traffic and I see a person on their phone and I can communicate in a way to them to maybe get off their phone, did they get off? Did they do it with anger? Do I think they're going to pull it back out in 5 minutes? Or did I actually have an impact to change their day? Make the roads a little bit safer? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But if I can try to focus on communication that has an impact, I'm headed in the right direction. One other thing that I really like is to journal for growth. Write down patterns and improvements over time. Have a win journal where you start writing down what are your wins in your communications? What are your wins in self-awareness? What are your wins in not being an asshole? Where are you needing improvement? Now, if you can journal about that, it can give you a point in time to reference and to start making improvements for the future. Now, what are the costs of avoiding self-awareness? Well, ignoring your flaws doesn't make them disappear. It just creates problems for you and others. Now, avoiding self-awareness can damage relationships, hinder opportunities, and stunt personal growth. It can leave you stuck in a place that you don't want to be. While other people around you are moving forward and deepening their connections, you might be that guy that always blows up and gets angry, and no one wants to promote or work with or be married to. And that's not good. We want to be the person that's moving forward in our career because we're easy to talk to. We want to be the person that everyone wants to bring on a team. And we want to be the person who is loved by their spouse because they feel safe and supported around them. Now, the growth superpower. Self-awareness is a lifelong journey. It's not about being perfect, but improving every day. Growth happens when you own your actions and commit to being better. Don't be Tom. Don't be stuck in this endless cycle of continuous assholery. Talk about embracing your own self-awareness with the people around you and share with them how you want to be better and that you want this to improve your relationship, your career, and maybe your parenting too if you're a parent. Now, for me, I'm working at it. And I talk to both my wife and my daughter about how I'm trying to be more self-aware. And when I make a mistake, I own up to it. And I do believe that I'm making progress. Now, what are some of the challenges I want you to try out this week? Well, stand in front of stand in front of your mirror for your daily mirror moment. Now, each morning, reflect on how you can be better that day. Send feedback and ask someone for advice on what you can improve. Track your growth with writing down one lesson or insight you learned each day. And finally, a bonus challenge: apologize and make amends for past mistakes. Now, you might not always be able to be perfect, but you can try to be better today. And remember, self-awareness is the foundation of personal growth and the antidote to assholery. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up, owning your flaws, and striving to improve. Now, every step towards self-awareness is a step toward a better life. Hope you guys enjoy your week and aim to be a little bit less of an asshole this week. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.